Hey, what's up everyone? In this video, we're going to pick up where the guide that I'm currently showing on my screen left off, which was to easily change the color of the MyListing verified listing badges. I also did a video to go along with that guide. So this is, like I said, this is going to pick up where that left off. And we're going to dive further into this, not just changing the color, but looking at optimizing the image, the SVG image, and just changing it altogether. Like if you don't want to use the default listing badge at all, we'll completely and easily change the design. We're going to use a free tool for that as well. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. Before we look at the actual tool, which we see on my screen here called SVG Viewer, let me show you exactly what I'm talking about in case you don't know what listing badges are and you haven't seen that previous video of mine. Here we're looking at a single listing. And right up here, we see that this listing is verified, therefore it gets this listing badge. I have manipulated this badge to match the branding. So that same blue color as you see throughout the Canvas starter site, which is where this is displaying on. We also see this on listing preview cards right here. Okay. You'll also see this in listing feeds. You'll see this in other areas like on the Canvas starter site. I show the badge in the pricing tables. I show the badge on the support page. So the potential listing owners will know what the listing, the verified listing badge is going to look like, what they're getting when they pay for that top package, that sort of thing. There's other areas that a badge could appear. It just depends on how you want to build your MyListing site, okay? All right, so we're going to take this a step further. Like I said, we're not going to just change the color. We're going to look at optimizing the file that we go with and completely changing it, all right? All right, so here we go in SVG Viewer. Let me move a couple things away on my screen, just get them out of the way. Okay, so let's say that all you wanted to do was just optimize your current badge file. That's all you wanted to do. You didn't want to change anything else, just optimize it. Click on this little upload button down here in the bottom left. We're going to go ahead and choose our file. Before we do that, I need to open FileZilla and drag the file down to my workstation. And this will all make sense if you watch my previous video. Again, it's called Easily Change the Color of MyListing's Verified Listing Badges. Okay, so I've pulled that file, that custom file down to my local workstation. We can now pull it in to SVG Viewer. And that is not the right one. All right, bear with me one second here. Let me figure out what's going on there. There we go. It should be good. So let's go ahead and try that again. All right, upload. Oh, I see why. Okay, that's my bad. There we go. Wrong folder. There we go. So this is our custom colored badge here, and we see all of, how over here on the left, we see the code, if you will, of how this is created. There's a lot going on there. And like I said, let's just say you want to optimize this. One thing you want to keep in mind is the top part here. It kind of talks about where it comes from. As you see here, Adobe Illustrator, blah, 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 blah. There is no licensing really. Doc type SVG public, I guess you could, if you were really worried about it, save this information or a portion of it. So I copied that to my clipboard. But if you don't care about that, you're not worried about the licensing, which frankly, I don't think you need to worry about it. You can just click this optimize button up here. It doesn't really look like a button, but once you've played with this tool, you realize that's what you need to click. But you see there's a 34% savings on this file just by clicking that button. Now, that may not seem like much. Like for example, here on the single listing, you're only saving, reducing that file size by 34%. But once you start getting into other areas like the listing feeds or the explore pages, where you might have a lot of listings that are trying to load that verified badge, then it all adds up. So imagine multiplying this savings times 20 times 50. You see how quickly that adds up, and it's a huge savings. We're also just looking at the listing verified badge right here. What if you wanted to use this tool to add another SVG to your site? That's another thing to consider. So it's not just about the listing badge. You can take the knowledge I'm giving with you here and use it for manipulating any SVG. Okay, so let's say you didn't care. Let's say you did care about, I am not 100% sure what all of this, I mean, I know that it's showing where the SVG was generated. You know, that's this line right here. It's giving you a little bit of encoding information. This right here might probably has something to do with the licensing. So maybe this line is probably the only one I would actually care about if I'm worried about licensing, which I'm not really, but let's just say we were. I'm going to copy that to my clipboard, and then I'm going to click optimize here. And you'll see here that drastically changes the code. What it's doing is it's stripping out what it does, everything but what it absolutely needs to function. That's the easiest way I can tell you, okay? So I'm going to go back in here. I'm going to put a space in here, and I'm going to paste back in there that what I think is the licensing information. I'm not an expert in that area. I don't know. I don't even think it's that important, but we put that back in there. Okay, and just by adding that line, we see that now it's added a 7% increase. All right, so if I was to click optimize again, it's going to remove that line and get us down as far as we can get this file down to. All right, so let's say we wanted to roll with this version. You can preview it over here on the right. I would not mess with any of these settings up here in the top. You see how it's in preview. I would not mess with any of this stuff over here unless you really have a specific use case and you know what you're doing. But what you can do is click down here in the preview window and change the background color just to see what it is that you would get. Okay. So we'll go back to the default there. So I'm going to go ahead and download this. And then I'm going to pull up the downloads folder on my workstation. And we see here that the name of the file that we need is tick for this to work with MyListing. So I'm going to delete the original tick file. I'm going to rename the file we downloaded from SVG Viewer. It's going to give it the name of tick. Okay, I'm then going to go into FileZilla and I'm going to pull that up to my server, overriding my file that's already there. Take note here of the file size before we do that. Right here, file size 2111. Okay, let's upload this. We see that that file size dropped quite a bit. All right, let's go to the front end. And all we did was optimize the file size. So we should not see any difference in the file. And we don't. Looks exactly the same. Let's refresh over here. Looks exactly the same. All right, so now we've optimized the file. So that's a cool thing. We've got our custom branding color from the previous video. We've optimized this file. Now let's look at some of the things that you can do with SVG Viewer as far as manipulating the current file further. So let's say you probably wouldn't want to do this with a check mark, but you could click this rotate button here and you could rotate the icon around. You could also flip it on its y-axis, flip it on its x-axis. This might be more useful depending on this icon that is right here in the middle. Or I call it the icon, but this check mark, depending on what that icon is in the middle there, rotating it might be a cool effect or a desired effect. You can also get into changing the dimensions. I would not do that unless you really know what you're doing. But yeah, that is that. So now let's get into changing this badge altogether for our site. So I'm just going to do a search for tick and just see what else is out there. Okay, there's a cool shield. Yeah, this is all fun and stuff, but let's kick this up a notch. Let's say we're building a website for pets. All right, let's type in the word pets. I really like this foot here. It looks like a dog. I'm a dog owner. I have a couple dogs. That appeals to me. So I'm going to choose this little dog footprint icon. SVG, whatever you want to call it. But we want to change the color of this to match our branding. So I'm going to go back into my dashboard of WordPress, into my listing settings. I'm going to grab my accent color because I don't know it off the top of my head. I'm then going to come in here and I'm going to find where it talks about a fill. And we see that in a couple of spots here. Because this whole image is black, You know, we see 2 fill values here, or a few of them, but they're all the same color, right? So we just need to change all of those. So anywhere you see that color, just replace it with your brand. And you can have some fun. Maybe like just the pinky toe is, or that left toe is black. You could do that. That'd be fun. All right, let's just make all of them match our branding. And we're going to now download this file. But before we do that, let's optimize it. So you see the huge savings, 63%. By boom, download. Okay, same process as before. We need to delete the original tick file, rename this file to tick, upload the new file to our server, overwriting what's there, and we see that before the file size is 1375. Let's overwrite all the way down to 526. That's because the SVGs within SVG Viewer are much smaller than the default MyListing badge to begin with, okay? All right, so we've uploaded that file to our server. You know, if you can see what the preview would look like on the different backgrounds. All right, let's refresh and see what we got. So before we have this, now let's refresh. We have our little paw prints. Okay, let's go to our Explore page. We've got our paw print. That's a little bit harder to see, you know, so you can play with it, change the colors, whatever you want to do. Maybe throw a background onto it, you know, whatever you want to do. You can totally have some fun and play with it. But yeah, really, really cool stuff. Tons and tons of colored icons in here. Colored SVGs, I should say. I should stop calling them icons, but there's just tons and tons of stuff you can do here. Really exciting stuff. I hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely check out that other video as well. If all you're looking to do is change the color, I cover that in the other video in the guide. But this just takes it a step further. All right, guys. See you in the next video.